Hello everyone and welcome to Andy Ford's Happy Chat. Please welcome my special guest, Mr. Les Dennis. Hello mate, how are you?
I'm great, thanks Andy. Nice to see you. We actually can be closer than we were before, even though we were in reality we were next to each other, but we were so far apart from each other because we were socially distancing in a panto, weren't we?
Yeah, and hilarious because we had to keep our masks on backstage. Yeah. And so there was noise coming from the stage and us two shouting at each other to try and suggest how to change a gag slightly. And it was, I mean, it would have made a good documentary, I reckon.
Yeah, it would have been good. We should have had the cameras back there.
Yeah, but I'm very proud of what we achieved in that short time.
We did so well. We did so well. I think we were the only of Kudos's pantos. I think they had 10 going out. We were the only ones that managed. I think we just missed 2 days, didn't we? Because we went into tier 3 on the 30th.
That's
we were due to finish on the 2nd of January. But we did it. We did really well.
And it was a funny show. It was bizarre because the other night I was lying in bed and I ran through the whole Shirley Shaw routine. I did everyone's lines, so it's still there.
Oh, yeah, it was good. That was fun to do, wasn't it? Because we knew that, you know, and I know that Jonathan Kiley, the director, was worried that we might not get the feedback. We might not get the laughter. But we got great laughter even through all the masks. Everybody sitting in the audience and wearing masks. And we knew that we couldn't connect with them in the sense that, you know, normally you would go on and say, I'm Billy, and they all say, hello, Billy.
Yeah.
You weren't even allowed to ask them that, were you?
No, it was a strange thing, but as they say in the military, you adapt and overcome, don't you?
Yeah, and I think, you know, it ran with one act without an interval, and I think it was a great show. It's one of my favourites that I've done.
Yeah, I hope we can get. I think they recorded a version of it, so I'd like to keep that for posterity because it might never happen again, Les.
No, I know, and we don't know where we are right now. We're keeping this happy though. It's going to be all right. We're going to be back on stage before the year's out.
Positivity. Right. Well, I'm chatting to someone who's been in the business longer than me, haven't you, mate? I mean, when did you start?
Well, this year, I will have been in the business. I counted from since I did Opportunity Knocks,
right,
on TV, and I was 17 years old then. So that makes it 50 years this year. This July, I'll have been in the business 50 years, which is, I've never done anything else. I've never, you know, I was still at school when I was on Opportunity Knocks. So I've never had a proper job, and I've been very lucky and loved it. You know, so 50 years of treading the boards and being on the telly.
And even the stuff that we feel is negative or a challenge at the time, it just helps to build up your ammunition for future shows and situations, doesn't it? So everything's a benefit. Don't feel it at the time, but whatever you go through just sort of builds towards what you can achieve in the future, really.
And if you want to have longevity, if you want to still be around like we are now, you've got to do what you do. You are very proactive. You do all your videos. You write plays that you star in. I think you've got to keep challenging and doing something different and be a moving target. You know, because otherwise you'll get hit and you won't last. And that's the great thing about this business, that if you are willing to adapt, you can create a new path for yourself. You just got to, you know, there's no point having a path and saying, well, that's where I'm going, because you'll get thrown off it all the way. And when you get thrown off it, just take that other side path. And that's what we've done.
Yeah, I mean, there's the old adage, careful what you wish for, and what's like the most important thing in the world for you. For example, the Raw Variety Show, that was like the big aim for me. And I wanted that to happen. That was the most important thing. But as it happened, when I did it, my actual
Yeah.
spot, because the show overran, my spot was cut from the Royal, so it didn't.
Oh.
And yeah, so I was in Panto at Bournemouth at the time, keeping it happy. I was in Bournemouth in Panto at the time, and I was quite depressed. But the guy that hosted the show, Des O'Connor, loved what I did.
Yeah.
And within 6 months of that, I became a regular guest on his show on TV. So all my eggs were in the basket of this is what's going to happen for me. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
What do I do now? Well, because I kept going, something turned up. And I mean, look at your career. I mean, you've done everything, mate, haven't you?
I've done a lot. And, you know, I've had moments like that. You know, when I did Celebrity Big Brother, it wasn't the greatest. You know, people, when I came out, the phone didn't ring and they were saying, not your greatest move. And I thought, well, what's going to happen after this? The phone wasn't ringing at all. And then suddenly Ricky Gervais rang and extras happened. So, you know,
Wow.
Exactly that thing of, you know, whatever you do that might seem like not the best move in your career. I mean, for you with the Royal Variety, was it you probably stormed them, but then didn't get on screen. But out of that came the Des O'Connor show, and out of Celebrity Big Brother, extras for me. So, yeah, you've just got to, you know, at the time, it's with hindsight that you can look back and say, well, that was a good move. I didn't realize it was at the time, but it was a good move.
Yeah.
So you just got to keep moving.
Well, exactly, moving toward color and movement. That's what they say, isn't it? Keep them interested. But I can't sit down. I'm one of these people who just can't sit down and say, well, there's no work. I'll wait for the work. I've got to do something else. I'll go crazy. You know, I have to, I'm a creative. So I have to write, or I have to do, like, I love my video editing. So I'll do that. Of course, you know, if you can't do the stuff that you want to do, well, actually, the stuff that you want to do, no, I want to do everything. So whatever comes along, you just make the most of it, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And, you know, right now, I think people, I think it was Nicholas Heitner, one of the great directors at the National Theatre. He said that, you know, out of this, there is going to be a massive creative wave, because we've all been sitting there waiting, doing things, maybe writing stuff on our own. I've been tinkering around with some writing. But, you know, when we get the chance to go back, I think it will be, you know, we'll be back with a vengeance. And that's the good thing.
And the other side of that is, I think the general public that loves seeing entertainment that are being starved of the live stuff, I think they'll go back with a vengeance as well, don't you?
Well, I think we got a taste of that, didn't we, with the Panto? Because so many people weren't doing live theatre last year, and when we were there in front of that audience, and at the end when we did that kind of Finding Panto Land, and we talked to the audience about, you know, missing them and being back in a theatre, they were so with us. They had missed it as much as we'd missed performing. So, you know, I think that when we move forwards, I think audiences will go back to the theatre in the droves and watch concerts and watch ballet and opera and entertainment, and hopefully come and see the comics. They want to see the funny men.
Yeah, I think so. But not assume that they're going to come back. Sit down and create something that draws them in. Make sure you've got something that they're really going to enjoy. And, you know, so it's not like, well, we're back now. It's down to us to create the stuff that they want to come and see, isn't it?
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that we, you know, at first we were worried, do we talk about coronavirus? Do we mention the pandemic in the Panto, or have they had enough of it? And we just peppered it with the odd little comments and, you know, and about the fact that we were socially distanced. And they loved it. They loved, you know, there's no point, you know, something going on culturally and you don't mention it, you run away from it. So
well, that's the essence
I think
of Panto as well, isn't it? Keeping
up. Yeah, it's a Panto. So you've got to be current. You've got to do what's, you know, of the time. So I'm looking forward to getting back out there. But in the meantime, getting on with doing what I've got to do. Yeah,
exactly. Just quickly then, although it's 50 years, so we probably won't be able to do it that quickly. So I suppose your start with Dustin is where a lot of us first got to see you with Dustin G.
Yeah.
But you told me when we were shouting at each other through mass backstage that you were actually both entertainers in your own right before you got together. So before you met Dustin, number one, how did that happen? And number two, what were you doing before that?
Well, as I say, the Opportunity Knocks was my first telly, and at that time I was doing the working men's clubs round Liverpool, round the Northwest, and my mum was driving me. It was before I could, pass my test, so my mum was taking me round the clubs, and she would get up and do a few songs if I wasn't doing so well. I'd go, Mum, do a couple of them. She'd get up and do, weirdly, she's not Jewish, Yiddish Mama, and storm it. And then, that's how I started. Then after Opportunity Knocks, I did New Faces, the original New Faces, that Derek Hobson hosted. I had Mickey Most and Arthur Askey, Ted Ray, because I was on it 4 times in all. So I had all these great judges on. Tony Hatch, who was the Simon Cowell of his day. Yeah. And, I respected him because he would always mark lower, because then he had somewhere to go. So I did that. I did that 4 times. And by the end of that, I got myself an agent in Liverpool. Mike Hughes was one of the big variety agents at that time. And I started then learning my craft, going around the clubs, the cabaret club circuit and the odd telly. I did Who Do You Do? Which Freddie Starr was on. And that's when I first met Dustin, very briefly. He was already a big star in his own right. He could fill a cabaret club just on his name because, he had one of, like Ronnie Dukes and Ricky Lee were, an actor had a reputation and could fill a club for a week, having not had much television. That's what Dustin was like. And
so did you
then when we joined the Madhouse.
Did you gravitate?
Well, we were on that day, we met very briefly, but I admired what he did, and it was when I joined the Russ Abbott Madhouse, and Dustin and I had Mike Hughes, the same manager, and I was wondering about where I would stay in London, and he said Dustin rents a flat, so I called Dustin. We arranged to rent a flat together with another comedy writer, Russell Lane, and that's where we made each other laugh. We started doing impressions against each other and thought, this kind of works, the 2 different styles of impression. Dustin was a big, he was flamboyant. He could put on a hat and pull a face and look like Robert Mitchum, and the audience would go mad. And then he'd come forwards and go, I can't do the voice, and get a roars. He could do Larry Grayson, just putting some teeth in and a pair of glasses and flattening his hair down, turned around, looked exactly like him.
Hey ho. Do you know, I remember my birth? Well, I should do, I was there.
I was more of the one was like doing voice impressions. So we had different styles, but they complemented each other.
Come in. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a letter off my mother. She says, Dear Jimmy, I'm sending you 3 Wellington boots. Because I've heard since you were in England, you've grown another foot.
And it was on the Russ Abbott show that we were doing a sketch together, and it just went so big, where Russ was playing his Sid the Spiv character, who said, I'm selling impressions, and the audience was shouting out impressions, and we'd pop up from behind his barrow. It was like a barrow boy. Doing different impressions. Michael Barrymore, Jeff Holland, me and Dustin. And somebody shouted Vera, and, there were loads of wigs down there. Dustin pulled on a curly wig and came up and went, hey, you all right, kid, from Coronation Street. And then he didn't have anywhere to go. So I just came up as Mavis and went, I don't really know. And it went so big that afterwards...
Did you ad-lib that?
Yeah, it came. We ad-libbed it on the show. And after that, the producer said, right, we're going to write some sketches for you 2 as these 2. And that's where that happened. And then we joined up as a double act, which when you consider that Dustin was so already successful, but he was prepared to go, no, I'll have a go at that. I'll do a double act, and he was, you know, it was Dustin G and Les Dennis was how it was written in Panto. Kind of, I was little letters, big Dustin G, and he said, "Now we're going to have the same billing, the same money." He took a pay cut just for me, which was amazing in this Panto, and he said, "I think it looks better to be Les Dennis and Dustin G." Just the most wonderful, creative. And you know, my best mate that I ever had in this business, and lost him too soon. Yeah, no, I can tell you loved him. Okay, how come you didn't come up with D and Dennis or something that, you know, G and Dennis. I think that they, when we got our own TV show at the BBC, they just said that, you know, Les and Dustin's Laughter Show sounded better than Dustin and Les's Laughter Show, because Les la 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 la. So it was Les and Dustin sounded better. It just was, you know, the alliteration was better. Yeah. Just Dizzy, stop barking. I've got a dog. Well, I've got two Shih Tzus called Stan and Ollie. I daren't let them. They've marked the place down. Talking of Stan and Ollie, did you do Stan and Ollie? Dizzy the Lassapoo, and we've got little Maya, who's only 6 months old, and she's they call it a she-poo, which I think is a polite way of saying a shit's poo, because she's a Shih Tzu poodle cross. Yeah, she's a shit's poo. Did you ever do Laurel and Hardy with Dusty? No, because when we were on the Russ's show, Russ used to do a bit of Ollie, and Jeff Holland did Stan. So we didn't get to do that on that. We never thought to do it after. We never, you know, as I say, it was, you know, we were together for 2 years. And then Dustin, sadly, it's 35 years ago this January that he collapsed in a dressing room and was in a coma for 2 days and then died. But we're keeping it happy. Hey! But his memory lives on, and if you catch any of the clips on YouTube and stuff, yeah, you can see that happiness between you two. You can obviously he was generous. Yeah, he was. Which is a generous performer and generous man. Go on. Neither of us kind of ever was jealous of the other one getting the laughs. So we always made sure that it was a double act that kind of weirdly wasn't straight man and comic. It was two straight men. No, it was two comics, but with different styles. So that complemented, and sometimes one would play straight man to the other. Well, I felt that's what, in a short amount of time that we achieved together, that we were, none of us were trying to take the mantle. We just do different sides of the comedy coin, and they made a whole, which was exactly what you did with Dusty. I think, you and I both, and we both commented on this early on in rehearsals. We were both relieved that the other one saw the kind of craft of each other, and you and I could then work so well together. And and in his own admission, Connor is a straight actor who was learning from us, in the middle of that. So that those routines that we did with the three of us, Connor played straight man to us, and we were able to do that, comedy, mum and son, which was nice to do. Which is lovely. And the other interesting thing, and hopefully I'm going to get a happy chat with Connor on here really soon. He really cared about those routines with us. I mean, you and I don't think you can do comedy unless you care about it. So stuck between two comedians doing what we do, there was Connor just determined not to let us down and to get the most that he could out of it. He analysed it to the nth degree, didn't he? To the point where he would get to the point where he'd get a laugh and you'd say, "You've got it, stay with that now." And he'd go, "I just want to try something else." And you go, no, because he kind of sometimes took it further into, to being analytic of it. If it's funny, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's right. And the thing with doing comedy is when you find the way it works,
you hung and you keep doing it that way. Of course, years ago, when you were in music hall and when Eric and Ernie were starting off, you would play to different audiences every night, so you could hung that. Now, tend to go straight onto TV, and once that material has been aired, I mean, you can still do it to a certain extent, but it does eat up the material. So when you were working with Dustin on the telly, did you have a completely different live show? Or did you do some of this?
We built our live show, and we were still in the kind of experimental stages with it, because we got the success within the first year, and then we started touring, nightclubs. We did a summer season at Blackpool, but because that was twice nightly, 6:10 and 8:40, which is what they used to do. Literally turn round. You'd start the show at 6:10. It would finish at 8:10. You'd get a half-hour turnaround, and you'd be back on again. Right. So you had to keep it tight. You had to keep that show absolutely the same for the whole of the season. So we didn't get to that point where we had started. There was so much that we wanted to do, and so much we discussed that we didn't get to explore. But yeah, certainly when it came to telly, we'd have a great team of writers. Barry Cryer called me the other day. I love Barry Cryer. He's just the loveliest bloke. And he always calls up when he's got a new gag, and he calls up and tells you a gag. I remember when I became a dad at 55, he called me and he said, 55 is a really good age to be a new dad, because you're up 3 times a night anyways. Typical Barry. And I love him. He's a lovely man. So we were very lucky. We had Barry Cryer, Neil Shand, Colin Edmonds. Even Bob Monkhouse, I didn't realize was writing for us, because Bob said to me one day, he said, I used to write for you and Dustin. I said, really? He said, yeah, I wrote this sketch, and this. I said, but that wasn't, your name wasn't on it. He said, no, I used to write in the name of Gascoigne Abbey. And I went, well, why? And he said, it's, if you work it out, Gascoigne is, you put a shilling into a gas meter in those days. So that's a bob. A shilling was a bob, and an abbey is a monkhouse. So he wrote in this pseudonym of Gascoigne Abbey. So we were very lucky. We had a TV show where we were given the best sets. We had Brian Rogers and his dancers, and we had guests like David Essex came and did it, and Nick Kershaw and Shakin' Stevens. We had great guests.
Please tell me.
And different actors would come in for sketches.
Have you got them all?
I've got them on VHS, and I'm really lazy. I haven't put them together onto DVD yet, but which I need to do, because the VHS doesn't last that long, does it? Exactly. Probably find that not any good. But what I find is that a lot of people are, posting things on YouTube. So there's a great, there's a Bowie and Jagger that Dustin and I did. We did the kind of dancing in the street spoof. And I'm really proud of that. And there are some other things. They're all up on YouTube. Yeah, put the Bowie and Jagger on. Yeah, just for Dustin, because it's very funny. He's great in it. And we did it. We shot it film for film. We went to a warehouse in the middle. We did a night shoot on it, and we shot it with the costumes. With if you put it next to the video of them. Although theirs was called Dancing in the Street, we called ours Past It in the Street.
Okay, Sanatogen, Wincarnis, Paracetamol, Vibrio, Valium, Milisan, Oxygen, Multivitamin. Camping up around the world, you should see us when we're on our feet. Far too old for this rock and roll. We're past it in the street. We're past it down in Bourne, old in Milton Keynes, getting on in Bognor Regis. All we eat is muesli, just muesli. We got yeast vibes everywhere. We ignore the pains of the varicose veins. We're past it in the street. Well, it doesn't matter, we don't care, just as long as we got there. Very young, well past our prime, we depression, degeneration, and bunions on our feet. The pain won't go from my lumbago. We're past it in the streets. Well, you should have seen us years ago. We could sure put on a show. Those days are gone, and now we look forward to our pension book. Yes, we're past it. You hear our joints all creak. Jim, Mick and David, we're really aged. We're past it in the streets. I know it's naughty, we're over 40. We're past it in the streets. We're past it, we are past it. We're past it in the streets. Yeah. We're past it, we're past it. We're past it in the streets. Yeah, 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 we're past it. Past it, past it.
An interesting story was we were on a TV kids program on a Saturday morning, and we were talking about this sketch. And then Bowie's people when we're having a look at this, we're not sure about this. That we'll probably tell them they can't do it. And Bowie apparently saw it and went, "I love it. They can do it." So that was fantastic to have. The credit of they went, "Yeah, go on, do it. It's funny."
Well, so bringing it quite up to date, tell us about, don't ruin his street cred, but how warm and good to work with is Ricky Gervais?
Ricky is great to work with, absolutely fantastic. And, when I got the call, I couldn't believe it. I thought my agent called me and said, Ricky Gervais has been in touch. Here's his number. I went, are you joking? She said, no, he's called. And I thought, this is a wind-up. I thought it would be John Culshaw winding me up. And I called and he went, "Hello, it's Ricky here." And I thought, oh my God, it is you. And he said, "Look, we want you to come and do an episode of this new show we're doing called Extras. And we want you to play a twisted, demented version of yourself." So great pitch. And he said, and there's an arse shot. You'll be naked in one scene. But when they said twisted and demented version of yourself, they said to me, think the Larry Sanders Show. And I loved the Larry Sanders Show. Yeah. It was a show based on a chat show, Larry Sanders Show. And he would have lots of big names come and lampoon themselves, send themselves up. So once he told me that, it was self-deprecating, and you were, and he said, "We'll send you the script, and if there's nothing, if there's things you don't like, then you just say so." Oh. And when I got the script, I said, "Oh, that's great." I said, "In fact, you can go further," and I changed the last line of the show because in the last line, I was supposed to be in bed with this woman, and I say to her, she says something, and I go, "I don't really know," and she goes, "Get off," and I was supposed to say again, "I don't really know." And I said, "Why?" I said, "We've done that. I don't really know. What about if I was to say, if it's up there, I'll give you the money myself?" And Ricky just laughed out loud and said, "We're having that, but you're not having a writer's credit." So they were absolutely great to work with. And then later on, I got to do Life's Too Short with Warwick Davis, and we did a special. We did a special, an Easter special. You can find that on YouTube as well, and or on iPlayer, I think. And it was me and Keith Chegwin and Sean Williamson as the boys are back in town, and we did a stage show together because Warwick was trying to sell us, as he said, 3 Z celebrities is almost a C celebrity. We'll put you together and take you out on this show.
And Ricky wrote that, yeah.
Ricky and Stephen Merchant, they were still working together at that point. But yeah, Ricky is great. And whenever I see him, he always says, "Oh, everybody says your Extras episode is the best." He's still got the enthusiasm and the love for what he does. And, Afterlife is a great show. I'd love to be involved in that. But, that's he goes on from one thing to another, and he's really riding the crest at the moment.
Well, he's mega. I'm sure you'll work together again. Right, let's bring it right up today. Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
I watched you on the classic Birds of a Feather, and you were brilliant on it. And was it good fun? Because had to be filmed during social distancing times, didn't it? So
I filmed it just before we went into rehearsals for Panto, and yeah, we had to literally. When I got there on the first day, I hadn't been tested, so we all. Or rather, I had been tested, but I hadn't had my results through. So we all had to wear visors and masks in rehearsals. So Leslie and I were trying to do this kind of chemistry of, two people who fancied each other behind masks and visors. But luckily, I knew Leslie. We'd done a thing for BBC Two called The Pilgrimage, where we'd walk to Rome. So we'd become really good mates. And I hit it off straight away with Linda. And it was great to do. I mean, again, it's a classic show to be part of. When I first went on set, and I'm in the house in Chigwell, the house that has been part of Birds of a Feather all those years. It was quite iconic to be there. Loved it.
Do you see, the possibility of bringing your character back there? Because he was really good.
Well, he runs off at the end, doesn't he? He's a bit of a cad. It was lovely to play, a terribly posh dentist. I was trying to channel a bit of Leslie Phillips there. Ding dong. Yeah, so he was great to play. He did run off, but I suppose he could come back with his tail between his legs. I don't know. It depends on, I know the writers liked the character, and of course, you never know. They don't know whether they'll get a series anyway. No, they did the special. It's the first show that hasn't had Pauline Quirk involved. She's decided to not do any more of the Birds of a Feather. She's decided to concentrate on her acting school. So who knows? I'd love to think that he might come back.
Well, he might. He could find God, couldn't he?
He could. Yeah.
I just saw longevity in him because it worked, and as well as the chemistry with Leslie, I really liked what you and Linda got there. The disdain was
the disdain for each other straight away was good. It was nice to play, and I was lucky. I've been really lucky that I got a few telly things. I've got I think coming out on Channel 5 next month called 5 Go Fishing, which is 4 or 5 episodes, 1 hour episodes where we went fishing all over Scotland. Myself and Fern Britton, Linford Christie, Rosemary Schrager, Shane Lynch, and for a while there was also Ian Botham was with us, but he could only do the first week. So that's coming out on Channel 5, and I did a Would I Lie to You that went out a couple of weeks ago. That was great fun to do. I love that show.
Yeah. So it's like fishing's the new rock and roll now, isn't it? With Bob and Paul Whitehouse and that.
Yeah. I think Channel 5 do these shows called 5 Go, and they've done 5 Go camping, 5 Go motorhoming, 5 Go caravanning or whatever. So this was, they thought, well, clearly, the success of Bob and Bob and Paul's show has been massive. So we went and we filmed all over Scotland last summer, and we were very lucky to do that.
Right, and were you a fisherman before, or were you new to it?
No, I was new to it, and new to it till the end, because I won't give anything away, but I tell you what, they say they call it fishing rather than catching, because those fish are bloody elusive, and it's tough. But I loved it. I loved standing. One day, I mean, I'm here. I won't go outside at the moment because the rain is absolutely torrential, and the dogs are looking at me like, "Come on, let's get out." But with my wet weather gear on, I stood on a fishing bank, determined to try and catch something. And they went, "Les, we've got to go in. You've been here 3 hours," and it hadn't bothered me. I think it becomes really hypnotic. The river, the chance, the fact that you can only concentrate on that one thing, and it gets you away. Got me away from all the coronavirus worries and all those things we worry about all the time. It's so. Have you done it? Do you fish?
Yeah, I used to do it as a kid. Go to the canal and all that. And I loved it. And I was so me. I'm do everything 200%. And the first fish I had was a perch, and I struck so hard that all that came out of the water was its head.
Oh my God!
So,
Pull the head off.
obviously, in those sort of programs, it's all about the camaraderie and the comedy that comes naturally.
Yeah.
Conversations, and you're reminiscing about the stuff that you do. Well, that's a hell of a mix as well, isn't it? There's actors and presenters and athletes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that must.
Yeah. All lovely. We all got on really well, and it's the kind of show where they're not trying to, make you fight. They're not interested in you kind of like looking for the tensions between you. So we had a great time. We went fishing all day, and then we went and stayed in a nice hotel or a guest house somewhere and ate fish. It's lovely.
I think coming to the end of our time here, Les, that was just great fun. And we need to do this again sometimes because we've done 50 years in about half an hour.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we've covered some salient points, but we haven't got into the deep. But working with you was a joy, I have to say, and I really loved it. And I hope that they look at that. And sadly, Michael Harrison, who runs Kudos, didn't get the chance to come and see us. He will see the tape though, and Jonathan, I'm sure, will sing our praises. And let's hope we get to do it again. Yeah, Les, it would be an honour to work with you again, because before we did it, there's always that thing in your mind: are we going to hit it off? And when you do, it's joy, because that's all we want, isn't it? To be able to enjoy others' company on stage and make people laugh. Yeah, and we hit it off, and we didn't have the chance to, after the show, go for a drink and have a chat and do all that. So next time. Next time, man. Thank you so much for giving me your time today. And hello to your lovely Shell. I can hear her in the background. I heard her laugh, I think, a couple of times. Yeah, she's hovering. We didn't get a chance to meet. Yeah, we didn't get a chance to meet, and hopefully you got home okay, because you had a long journey, didn't you? That day. She came all the way down, bless her. County Durham to Plymouth, and when she arrived at my digs, there was still some ice from County Durham on the roof of the car. How about that? Oh my God! Wow, wow. Anyway, mate, you take care, and I'll let's do this again sometime, and look after yourself. Yeah. And love to your family, your lovely family. Yeah. Oh yeah, and you. Cheers, mate. Shirley Shaw or no Shirley Shaw? See you, mate. Take care, mate. Thank you.